Okay, so the first question is, what do you think worked really well in your salary negotiation role play? What strengths did you discover about yourself? And what did it feel like to advocate for yourself and the salary you deserve?
I think what really well is us being able to have the first experience in it. I think that went well, being able to like know that it's okay to make mistakes in this, and also getting the experience. I would say like doing this, like I think that is what went really well. I think for strengths about myself is that it's not as scary as it seems to
Yeah.
negotiate, and I think I would be able to do it, so it gave me more confidence. And what did it feel like to advocate for myself? I mean, it made me feel like a boss. What about
Yeah.
you?
So yeah, I definitely agree. Just like doing it and like getting, the wording and just having it like not having it be a formal actual, in job situation, kind of getting it out there like a practice run really helped. And like saying this stuff out loud is kind of making it less scary to do in person. So I think what went really well was that we both got the test run out of the way. And now, since we neither of us have actually been in this situation, we can now, go into it with a little bit more confidence. And I think we both, had a good professional, demeanor and, just got a good practice run out of the way. So I really like this assignment and doing it.
Yeah. It seemed intimidating at first. Oh, wait, look, next question. Wait, go ahead.
Yeah, what was the most challenging part of the negotiation process for both of you? And how would you do things differently in future negotiations? What resources do you need to become a better negotiator?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is like it being intimidating, like especially never doing it. And I think I like that in yours you talked more, like I wrote it down, but I didn't say it. But I like that you talked about like, yes, you've been with the company, this and that, but also what you're doing. Like, you were in more detailed about reasons. I feel like I kind of just jumped into like, oh, I've been here 6 years, and like I like that you gave the specific points, and that's definitely something if I'm like in a real situation, I would want to do that. And it's not like in an intimidating way or in a like a egotistical way. You said it in like a professional, like, hey, I'm here to work and I'm doing my best. And like what else can I, get from this? What resources? I would say I really liked the talk the thing we talked about, the video, how it had like
Yeah.
specific things. I really liked that because I liked how it said, not that I would think I would go in and say, oh, give me this and I would leave, but
Hmm.
like it's still good to hear like, okay, don't do that. I don't know, it sounds
Yeah.
funny, but like sometimes I think like, is that what you have to do? But no, it doesn't have to be awkward, it doesn't have to be intimidating, it doesn't have to be weird. It's kind of like, we're at a job and that's our employer. So
Yeah. No, I think before doing like this week's assignments, like watching that video and reading some of the things, I kind of assumed that it was like you go in there and like your boss, who is like your friendly boss, is now like your biggest enemy. And you're like, hey, I want this money. And if you don't give it to me, like find someone else. Like that's what it seems like it is,
yeah.
not ever doing it, So it's nice that at least we got to do this before we've been in that situation, because I think I would have done things a lot differently and kind of done things the wrong way.
Yep.
So that's really nice that we got to do this. But I feel like the most challenging part is just like having the courage to actually do it. Like I even now after doing this, it's like hard to think of myself actually going up to my boss and saying, "Hey, can we talk about this?" Like I think I would just wait for, that time of year to come around when they're doing like evaluations, but it's like reading everything this week, it shows how, women don't speak up for themselves and it doesn't have to be like a bad situation to talk about your salary. So maybe just having like the courage to actually do it was one of the hardest things. And in the future, I feel like now I have these tools and, now I know like I'm not going to go in there and just say, "Hey, this is where I need to be," or "I don't want to be here anymore," to put it all out there and say, "You can think about it, but this is the range that I want to be in and this is everything I've done," and just having like a clear way to do something. It's like not knowing how to ride a bike and someone just put you on a bike. Now I feel like we actually got lessons on how to,
Yeah, definitely.
you know what I mean? Like it's like a nice training wheel. So that's awesome. So the next question is, what did you learn from playing both the employee and the employer?
I think I gained some perspective for sure. I've always been on the employee side, so I always think, oh, they don't ever want to give us money, they're cheap, like XYZ.
Yep.
But in reality, like, they have their circumstances too. Like, for example, like your company, like how your stock's doing and all this other stuff. And then
Mhm.
inflation, and then like, not even thinking when it said in the employer or what it was like, oh, you have to remember you have other employees, and like, yes, you
Mhm.
use your discretion with each employee, but what if all of them deserve like a 10% raise, right? So I think that's something I definitely learned, because I didn't know. I always felt like employers are just like kind of cheap in a way, but they have budgets they have to be under as well.
Yep. No, I totally agree. That was something that I was like, oh, thinking about, oh, if I'm actually going to do this in my job, like, what is my boss considering when I go in there and ask for this? I'm sure if every boss wants to be like, yeah, here's money, but they don't have really the means to do that. So it's understanding that, you deserve this much and they can only give you this much, but, you have to find that middle ground. And it was interesting to like sit there and kind of feel like you have the power, but even having the power, you feel like, oh, I don't want to tell this person no. Like it's uncomfortable for both people a little bit.
Hmm.
So that was a good perspective too, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And then based on this week's reading and role play, why do you think this salary negotiation is important?
I would say because the economy is ever changing and we need a livelihood as well, right? Like,
Yes.
we want to accommodate our employer, but like we have to live a good life as well. If we're constantly struggling and working overtime, we never see our families because we're not getting paid enough, like that's a problem as well, right? I think
Definitely.
that's why salary negotiation, and no one really talks about it. I really think like it's like this, what is it called when it's like no one wants to talk about it, like a taboo
Like a
thing?
taboo. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like but it shouldn't be. It should be a comfortable conversation. But I feel like growing up, like you learn like, oh, don't ask, don't ask, don't tell, like, or something like that, right? Like
Yes.
you want to make your employer. I feel like we're constantly like, oh, we want to make our employer happy so we don't get fired. But we have, I think, learning that we have worth too. Like, we're worth more than 15 an hour, 14 an hour, 17, 20, X, Y, and Z. Like, we should act like it, right? Like we could be somewhere else who's gonna acknowledge that. So I
Yes.
think that's what is important.
Well, definitely, like knowing your worth and holding yourself to a higher expectation. You're not going to get more unless you ask for it. And definitely, like I've been there, like working in a job where I'm like, the struggling itself and trying to meet ends makes doing your job harder. So, like, if you need that extra money, like, and you deserve it, you have to fight for it and not necessarily fight for it, but you got to ask for it. You got to put
Right.
it out there. You're not going to get it if you don't ask.
Right.
And, you know, like you said, just knowing your worth and saying, I work hard and I deserve more than that. And I need more than that to move forward in my life. And, inflation and everything, takes away from that pay that you get. So you gotta move up, you know.
For sure, for sure. I think like I feel like know so many people who just stay and never say anything. It's kind of like when I don't know if I'm saying the question right, but it's kind of like when CEO says, "Don't come up to me with a problem, but come to me with a solution." It's kind of like they're not gonna look for you. There's so many employees, so many needs. They're
Yep.
not gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this person hasn't had a raise in 5 years. Let me go give it to them." We have to be like, "Wait a minute, I've been at this." They say there's a point in our salary where like if inflation goes up and we're at the same pay, we're kind of losing money. Like there's something that they say, like
Yep.
some
Yep.
mathematical thing. I don't really know, but I don't
Definitely.
know. It's so important, and I'm so glad we're learning about it in this class,
Mhm.
honestly, because I would have never.
Yes. And there was one thing I watched this week that was like talking about it, like negotiating your beginning salary is super
Yep.
important, your starting one, because that like leads you everywhere else. Like where you start, if you start lower, like overall in life, you're gonna make way less. And if you negotiate your beginning salary and you're higher, like you'll make more over time just because of raises and everything like that. So I think that was really like a big eye opener, you
That's
know?
really interesting. Like when I read that too, I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." Because if I start at 30,000 in what, like 5 years, hopefully I'll be at 40. Instead of saying no, I want to start at 45, and then in 5 years you'd be at 50. If it's like, it's
Yep.
crazy to think about, but that's so good. Like, think about it. Like, I think one of the assignments, I think it was the same one that said like, they already love you, they already want you. So
Mhm.
like, show your worth.
Yeah, it makes me think like I should have negotiated my salary when I started.
Me too. I know. It's like, oh, thank God I'm not in my career yet. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, but it's good to know now. Like, thank God I'm not in my career, because when I do get in my career with my
Mhm.
experience and everything, like I can say I want to start here.
Yep.
If you can't meet me there, then like we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty. Good chat. I like this.
Yes. Me too. It was a great way to like talk to, get to meet you.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Oh, it's like real. It's like real. Like,
I
how
know.
we all just text each other and we're like, who are you? Like, but
Yes.
when you actually meet someone, it's like, okay, great. I'm
Yeah.
totally gonna comment on their discussion.
Yes, exactly. I was when we like got off to see if we recorded, I told my boyfriend, I was like, I really like her. So
I
glad
know, it's
she's
so
my
good to have a
partner.
friend. Like,
Yes.
thank God. Well, it's so funny. Wait, let's just, okay, I'm
Stop
gonna end the
recording.
recording.